Hi, I'm Linda Pineacre, psychic medium, and today's live event topic is messages of identification from loved ones. I'll be sharing messages of identification that loved ones have shared with me during readings to validate their presence in their friends and family's lives. It's wonderful when loved ones share information that validates their presence. Sometimes the information they share is so unusual that there's no doubt about who they are. If you have set expectations about what loved ones will bring to identify themselves, you may miss the signs or information that they do bring. You need to be flexible, receptive, and open. Let them bring something to you. You'll be much more likely to receive something meaningful. John Edward, who's a well-known psychic medium, and his mother had agreed to 3 specific signs that she would bring to let him know that she was present after she passed. And it was years before he received those signs that validated his mother's presence because of his expectations. Sylvia Brown, another well-known psychic medium, she also waited years to receive meaningful signs from her mother because she also had set expectations. If they'd been more open to receiving something other than what they were expecting, they would have been aware of receiving signs sooner. And that goes the same for everybody. It's just really important that you be flexible about what you're looking for. Sometimes they bring information that isn't that meaningful to the person I'm meeting with. They might bring something that's really unusual. I know that one time I was meeting with a young woman, and her father, one of the pieces of information he brought was that he loved his bicycle as a kid. But his daughter wasn't even born then, so that meant nothing to her, and she didn't know anything about that piece of his history. Sometimes it takes a while for a person to realize that information is significant, and they either recall something or they speak to someone and realize that the information is meaningful. I was teaching a class in San Diego years ago, and a father showed up during the class, and he had a message for his daughter. And he just really kept insisting that a gray suit was significant, but that didn't mean anything to her. And come to think of it, I think it was an uncle. I don't remember for sure, but anyway, it was either her uncle or father. But anyway, she wasn't able to go to memorial service. And during the break in the class, she talked to her 2 sisters who were also at the class with her, and they told her that he'd been buried in that gray suit. So it was very significant. And she was kind enough that after the break was over, that she let the class and I know about that piece of information that she wasn't aware of. I rarely remember any of the information that I received during readings, and especially when I connect through trance with loved ones, it's very difficult to remember anything. Some of the examples that I'll share are from readings I did before I began connecting with loved ones in spirit through trance. I often receive visual images and information during moments when I'm not in trance, and some clients have helped me to remember those. Sometimes after a reading, people will talk about something that came up during the reading, or they may write to me, or they send their recording of the reading, and that provides opportunity for me to share them with you. So anybody who's joined in, could you say hi and let me know where you're from? That'd be great. I'll be checking the comments for that. So one of the first examples I wanted to give was a young woman, Nell, who I connected with her mother who had passed on. And I asked her mother to show herself to me, and I shared lots of identifying information with Nell. But her mother was really impatient to get her own message across. And she wanted her daughter to know that she'd been with her 3 days previously when she made a purchase. And she showed me an image. Oh, hang on a second. Hi, Lisa. Nice to see you. Victoria. Sounds good. Bet the weather's even better there. Anyway, so she showed me an image of Nell standing in front of a counter, a glass counter with metal trim. And so I told Nell about the image, and I asked if she'd purchased jewelry 3 days ago and explained what I'd seen. And she said, no, she hadn't. I said, were you maybe at a deli counter or something? No, that didn't fit for her. And then she said, you know, she just didn't think that she was at a counter, but she asked whether 3 days ago meant Monday or Sunday. And when I said Sunday, she was still unable to make the connection. Then her mother sent me the word tickets. And Nell remembered that she'd purchased tickets on Sunday at a ticket counter. So I told her that her mother just wanted her to know that she'd been with her when she bought the tickets. And that really meant a lot to her. Another time I was actually auditioning for a job doing readings at a metaphysical bookstore. And the man who was checking me out to see if I knew what I was doing, I connected with his partner who had passed on. And the partner had told him that he, recently accompanied this guy to a jewelry counter where he purchased a silver watch at Walmart. And the guy who was interviewing me was really excited. I mean, pulled up the sleeve and shows me the silver watch on his wrist. He said he just purchased it at Walmart a few days before the reading. So that was another lovely example. And I got the job. I think that was, about 15 years ago. Yeah, a long time. I had this neighbor that I used to walk by his house fairly often because I used to go for what I called nurture my soul walks every morning when I lived in San Diego. And one morning, one of my spirit guides came to me and told me that she wanted me specifically to walk by that fellow's place. And when I got there, he was out there laying bricks. And so we were chatting for a while, and his father, who's passed on, came to me and kept insisting that I tell his son that he was there. And I'm like telling him in my head, he doesn't know that I'm a medium, and I don't really want to tell him. But his dad was just so persistent. So finally I said to this young man, I said, your father's here. And he just whirled around, looked behind him. and I said, no, your father's passed on, right? He said, yeah. And I said that he wants you to know that he's been helping you lay all these bricks and this lovely brick flower bed that you've put down for your girlfriend. And he says, he said, that doesn't surprise me at all, because last night I didn't put my tools away. And I heard a voice say, you'll never find that shovel in the dark. Wait until morning. You should have put your tools away. And then he told me that he could actually feel his father with his hand on his back, and because he had his shirt off, and apparently his father must have been touching him. And then he told me that his dad said that, no, he told me, it's hard for me to remember these stories. He told me that he'd use a tennis ball to make sure that the drainage on the sidewalk would just be just right. And his dad spoke up to me and said to me that he made that suggestion to his son. So it's really nice for his son to get an impromptu meeting with his dad, because he sure wasn't expecting that when he was out there doing the gardening. Neither was I. But after the spirit guide that told me to go, she told me the reason why she sent me was so that I would have this story to share with others. And I actually put it in one of my books, Messages of Hope and Healing. Another woman who had me connect with her father, when I was connected with him, he showed me a clock face. And I told her, but it's small and it looks more like a watch. And she said, well, that really means something, because just before he passed on, he'd given her son a watch. And another time I was meeting with another woman, and I told her that her loved one was showing me lace, and it looked like doilies. And she indicated that her loved one adored her grandmother, who lived in Finland and made doilies, and that she had a lot of her doilies. So that was really meaningful to her. You just never know what they're going to bring you. They're very creative, I guess is how I would put it. Another time I was meeting with a young woman, and I connected with her mother who'd passed on. And I just said to the young girl, I said, is there a reason why your mom keeps showing me yellow roses? And her face just lit up, and then she got tears in her eyes, and she says, that's my favorite flower. So she was really touched. Another time I was meeting with a young man, and I'd connected with his girlfriend who passed on. And when I asked her what sign she would bring him, she said that she brings him copper pennies. And I said to him, I know that's kind of weird because we don't use copper pennies anymore. And he said, yeah, but he said she used to collect them. And I have a satchel of old copper pennies that she collected. So it meant a lot to him. Oh, looks like we've got some others. I've got Lydia here from Victoria, and I've got Bev. Hi, Bev. Oh, and Tambona just joined. Excellent. Nice. Way to go, you guys. Thank you. Before I moved to Vancouver Island, and I was living in San Diego, I traveled up to Calgary a lot because my parents and my son and his girlfriend lived in Calgary. And one of the times my twin sister Karen was also in Calgary at the same time. And a friend who I had gone to, I supervised her practicum when I was a counselor and I was working at Children's Hospital. Anyway, I agreed to meet with her and my sister, and we met at a restaurant to have a cup of tea. Hi, Anita. She's from the Malahat. Anyway, Darlene's husband, Patrick, had passed on in a tragic car accident, and she was really missing him. And he came and he provided identifying information, which we shared with her, and she said they all fit. I had never met him, and neither had my sister Karen. But anyway, he sent the word turquoise, and he explained it was water. And Darlene had apparently just purchased property on Vancouver Island. And Karen, my sister, who already lived on the island, told us that there's a lake there the color of turquoise. And then he said, tell Darlene that when she stands on the shore of the lake and the gentle breeze comes toward her, that's me sending my love to her. And all three of us just teared up. And then he sent another image of the lake with ripples flowing toward Darlene standing on the shore. And he said, that's me sending more love to her. So we were just so tearful. We were really touched by that beautiful message. Another time, I was at the end of a reading, and I was meeting with a young woman, and she asked me to connect with her father, who recently passed on, and she asked for a message for each family member. So I connected with him through trance, and I shared a message for each family member, and they weren't just one sentence, like they were fairly lengthy. She and I had a whole hour for that reading. And after I was all done sharing all the personal messages for everybody in the family, she pulled up her sleeve and she showed me all along her arm. And she said at the beginning of the message that when he said, roll with the, I don't remember the exact words, roll with the wind and roll with the tide, it matched the verse tattooed on her arm. I thought that was excellent. Another time I was meeting with a young woman, and I connected with her horse who'd passed on. And I kept seeing the horse pawing the ground with a hoof, and was just doing it almost constantly. And the young woman told me that her horse was pregnant, and she was concerned that the foal would have that same repetitive behavior. And it was really a beautiful reading because the horse kept using horse track terms during the reading, such as when she talked about her owner's horse business. She used words like out of the start gate to let her know that her business was off the ground. And said everything is coming up roses to let her know it's going to go well. And then she showed a wreath of roses around a horse's neck, like they do for when you win an equestrian event. So that was really special too. Someone wants to know what next fair I'll be at, but I don't do fairs anymore. I'm sorry. If you want to know about when I might be coming to Victoria, I'll be there on April 27th. You can check my website and you'll see it advertised there. And another young woman that I met with, I connected through trance with her godmother who'd passed on. And once I was no longer connected with her through trance, she'd already shared a lot of identifying information and some messages and everything. She showed me visions of pansy flowers. So I asked this young woman whether or not that meant anything to her. And she said that was her godmother's favorite flower, and that they'd actually placed them on her coffin for her memorial service. And then her godmother showed me a vision of a white fabric that had a scalloped hem and a cutout design that was outlined with a satin stitch. And that was unfamiliar to this young woman too. But after we had been talking for a while, she said, wait a minute, she said, I've got it. She pulls up her cell phone and she brings up a photo. It was a photo of her godmother in her wedding dress, and the fabric and the design that she had shown me matched the hem on the sleeves and the bottom of her dress. I really thought that was special. I was so glad that she noticed it before she went, because otherwise I might never have known what it was. And I was trying to figure it out. I knew it wasn't a tablecloth, and I knew it wasn't doilies, and I just couldn't quite figure it out. So that was really nice to know. I had another woman that came to me, and every time she came for a reading, I could smell Oscar de la Renta perfume. And so one day I thought I'd finally tell her that I'm sensitive to perfumes and cologne. So when she comes, would she please make sure that she didn't wear any? And she says, I don't wear any perfumes or colognes. I said, you're kidding me. So then I checked. And I said, you don't wear Oscar de la Renta? And she said, no, but my mother who's passed on did. So then I, checked with her and I passed on the messages that she had. I just hadn't been looking for that because we hadn't been talking about anything like that. So we were looking at things that were work related that would seem much more important to her. So anytime after that she came up, I smelt the cologne. I knew that her mother had some messages for her. So another time I was connected with a woman's mother who's passed on. I was connected through trance, and I asked her, or rather she told me when I was connected through trance, she said that she was bringing her rainbows as a sign. And the daughter's face lit up because she said she saw a double rainbow immediately after her mother passed. And she said she also saw a rainbow when she was on her way to meet with me. So her mom knew she was coming. They always know, by the way. And you don't have to worry. If you go for a reading, you can connect with anybody that you want. All you have to do is ask. They'll come. A lot of them are just waiting for you. Another woman, her father had a great sense of humor. And he said, during trance, he said that he turned pictures around. I didn't know what that meant. And she explained it to me after I came out of trance. She said one night she heard a noise downstairs. And when she got up in the morning, a framed photo of herself and her father was flipped over so the photo was face down. And she explained to me that he used to tease family members, by saying that they weren't in his good books. He'd just take their pictures and turn them around so you couldn't see their faces. And that was just his way of letting her know that he was around the night before. So that was nice. Another one, I connected with her grandmother. And after I'd connected with her through trance, and she'd already shared lots of evidential information and messages, she showed me some pennies. And when I mentioned to this granddaughter that she was showing me pennies, she said, well, yesterday I pulled out a piggy bank that my grandmother had given me many years ago. And my grandmother used to give me pennies, and I kept them in that bank. So she knew that was Grandma. She already knew anyway, because Grandma shares much information about herself. But I just think the special little ones are the ones that really count. One woman, when I connect with her father, I asked him what sign he could bring her, and he showed me gold coins. And then she said, just as he was showing me this, she said, could he bring me a sign? And I told her, I said, I was just asking about that, and he showed me gold coins. But I said, they're not loonies, though. They look gold, but they don't look like loonies. And she said, well, that's funny, because last night, several gold coins showed up on her kitchen counter. And she didn't know where they came from. And they were gold foil-wrapped chocolate coins. No wonder they didn't look like loonies. I thought that was pretty creative, though, because apparently she loved chocolate. I'm just going to check and see if anyone's else joined here. I've since found out that sometimes I don't know when people are on, because I thought that it always popped up when the comments come up, and you actually have to remember to scroll down every once in a while. Hi, Karen. Karen's from Cowichan Bay. That's my twin sister. Another man that I gave a reading to, this was many years ago, back when I lived in San Diego. And when I connected with his brother, he showed me an image of the man that I was meeting with walking down a cement aisle with huge shelves on both sides, loaded all the way up high and loaded with lumber. And the young man told me that 3 days previously, he'd purchased 3 cords of wood at a Home Depot. And that's exactly what the shelves looked like that I was shown. And so his brother said, well, he was with him. And the guy said, well, it was really funny, because he said, I felt like I was talking to myself, because he said, I was trying to decide, do I get 2? Do I get 3? And I felt like I got the answer 3, so I bought 3. So he realized he'd been talking to his brother. Oh, hi, Lisa. Yes, it is a beautiful day. I was meeting with a large group of First Nations, and they were all family members. And while I was connected with trance, or after I connected with trance with this woman, she held up a multi-layered slice of food, and she held it up to her mouth, and she told me that it was a casserole. And the family told me that she loved lasagna. And that's what she was holding up. I never would have figured out what it was. I just said to him, it looks like it's got lots of layers, and she's telling me it's a casserole. Another woman that I connected with, someone who passed on, it was her uncle. And I connected with him through trance. And I felt he had a booming voice. It's really interesting that as soon as I connect with someone through trance, I feel like I have their personality. And if they're smokers, I can tell that they had a raspy voice or scratchy voice or whatever. And this guy, I just knew right away that he had a booming voice. Hi, Ian. He's from Victoria. And, you know, even before I had a chance to speak on his behalf, I just could feel everything about him. I could feel he was so full of energy. Anyway, so he started to speak through trance, and said he was energetic and outspoken, and that people enjoyed his company, and he said he was funny and that he appreciated a good joke. And he said he would admitted that he craved being the center of attention. She agreed with all of that. She agreed with all the other things he shared about himself through trance. And then he said that he spends time with her mostly when she's out and about, and she agreed. She knows when he's with her. And then when I was no longer in trance, I said to her, is there something about shells or crustaceans that's important to him? Because he was really sending me messages about that. And she's, well, he lived by the water. And then she said, we actually dropped his ashes. And at the exact same time, I said, because he's showing me, and then she finished the sentence, right off the shore. And I said, he's showing me that, but I said, I can actually see the edges of shells, like a large shell. And she said his ashes were in a thing that was a shell. And so that's like how he put his ashes into the ocean. And she was so sweet. She sent me the recording so that I'd be able to get all the wording for that right. Because it was kind of confusing, because she and I were sort of talking at the same time, because I can't always tell when someone's going to speak. So sometimes I speak and they're speaking, and, you know. Another woman that I had come visit me, one of my neighbors, I connected with her father through trance, and he said, in trance, he said, I'll bring you coins, unusual coins. And later on, when I wasn't in trance anymore, he showed me a vision of a coin with a square hole in the middle. And she said, I already have a coin with a square hole in the middle, but I don't know where it came from. Now she knows. Oh, you see now. Oh, I had a daughter and a mother come to me. They wanted me to connect with the mother's stepfather who'd passed on 22 years ago. And she questioned whether it'd be possible to connect with him, because she'd taken her mother to a medium one year after he'd passed, but that medium had been unsuccessful. And I reassured her that I'd be able to connect with him, because they always come. I've never seen it fail. And I immediately connected with him through trance, and his voice sounded scratchy as he was describing his personality, and he shared his personality completely, and she agreed that it all matched. And when I came out of trance, he showed me a dark coin, but I couldn't figure out what it was. And so I connected with him again through trance, and he said, through trance, he said this, how much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? And I asked both women whether this meant something meaningful. The daughter explained that her grandfather, the man that I was connected with, worked in an antique store, and he sold wooden nickels for $1. And I knew then that he'd recited that verse, so we'd know that the coin was made from wood. And then the mother asked whether or not he had any other messages for her. And I was connected with him through trance. And he laughed and he said through trance, don't take any wooden nickels. And being the age that I am, I know what that means. When I was a young kid, wooden nickels were really worth anything, you know. And so people used to always tell you once they weren't worth anything more, don't take any wooden nickels because they're worthless. So that's what he meant. Huh. Oh, I had a woman who I connect with her father, and his throat, just when I connect with him through trance, it sounded like sand or gravel, and the words sounded really husky. So I asked her afterwards, I said, did he have a raspy voice? And she says, yes, he did. They never knew why, but he always had a raspy voice, and he wasn't a smoker or anything like that, so there was no explanation, but that's just the way it was. Another young woman that I connected with her father, after I was no longer in trance, she asked, is he with my babies? And he showed me a vision of himself wearing a plaid shirt and holding a baby in each arm. And she just thought that was really special, because she said he always wore plaid shirts. And asked him for signs, and he said that he sometimes knocked on her door. And she said that she'd heard knocking her door several times and there was nobody there. And then he showed me a silver necklace that was really a fine filigree chain with a silver heart hanging on it. And when I described that to her, she said that she had a necklace of that description. And then he said that the metal is permanent, as is his love for her, and that he'll always be there for her. You're both really touched by that. And he also said that he would bring her chocolate. And she explained to me that they often shared chocolate together. And then the other thing he said was that he brought dogs to her. And she said that he brought a dog to her when they celebrated his birthday a few days after his passing. And also another time he had brought a dog and she knew it was from him. Oh, I see, got another one, a young woman whose father had passed on. And he said that he was with her the other day when she purchased the necklace. And she confirmed that she had just purchased a necklace. And he said, "It's pretty, isn't it?" And so I asked him if he could be more specific. And he said, "Tell her that the necklace is very delicate." And she agreed. And she said she had just bought the necklace the day before. She'd only just got it. And so I guess he'd been with her when she bought that necklace. I had another woman that lives in San Diego, and she is a real skeptic. And so she got a second reading from me, and I said to her, you know, she wanted to connect with her husband who passed on again. I said, "Do you want me to give you identifying information again?" And she's, "Yeah." She said, "I'm still a non-believer." So anyway, her husband showed me a vision of a wooden workbench that was scattered with tools, and she confirmed that he had one. And then he showed me a vision of a man lifting a wood grain chest off of the cement floor of a garage. And he was using two antique brass handles, one on each end. And the woman said to me that she had given his wooden chest in the garage to their adult son on Sunday. So that's who would have been lifting the wooden chest off the garage floor. Then he showed me a window that looked like multiple panes that were separated by metal or wood. And I finally figured out it was a leaded glass window. And his wife explained that she'd moved into a different home and it had two leaded glass windows. And then he said, "And they give you lots of joy." And she said, "Oh, yes, I really like them." And she explained that they'd moved out of the house they shared and purchased a different house. And he just wanted to let her know that he was with her even after the move. A lot of people worry that if they move away that they won't be able to connect with their loved ones anymore. They don't realize that after we pass on, we're just energy and we can be wherever we want. And, we can be with more than one person at a time. And we don't have bodies anymore. They can show what they look like in a body, but they don't really have bodies anymore. They're energy. So she was relieved to know that he went with her to the new house. Oh, hi, Cassie. So one of the things I want you to know is that a spirit's energy may be less noticeable than another's. You know, it's because they had a subtle nature, and so their energy comes across as very subtle. So some spirits, it's a little more difficult to notice them when they come to you. So if you just relax enough, you'll be much more able to pick up on them. And really, you know, like I can connect with anybody that you ask for. It's just a matter of believing, because if you only notice the ones that are real obvious, you know, the ones that have energy that comes across as stronger or more outstanding, then those are the only ones you'll be able to connect with. But if you realize that some people have a little more quiet temperament, their energy may be more subtle, and you just have to relax a little bit more so you can feel those ones too. And that way you can connect with any loved one that you want to. The secret is relaxing, just sort of sitting back and letting it come to you rather than pushing and trying to get it. That almost puts up like a brick wall so you don't get it. So that's the end of the examples that I have to share today. I don't know if anybody had anything they wanted to bring up. Hi, Lynn. This time I didn't miss anybody. I've been missing them. I do these once a month, and I always miss people because I didn't know that. Because in the beginning, it always moves up so I can tell when a person comes on. But after that line gets long, you can't see them anymore unless you scroll down. Just in case you ever do a live event, you'll know. So I guess the most important thing that I wanted to point out to you is that spirits bring whatever they want to bring. And they don't necessarily know, or I mean, they don't care. I don't know. I just know that a lot of time they'll bring stuff that isn't immediately recognizable. So, you know, even for yourself, if you're expecting certain things, certain signs, you're probably going to be disappointed. You're much better off just to relax. And when things come to you, or if you happen to notice something that seems unusual, the first thing that comes to your mind, the first loved one that you think of, is a good indication that that's who brought that sign. And I hope that all of you will become much more aware of that and miss out a lot less. And if you go for a medium, be receptive and open and flexible, and you'll get much more meaning out of the readings otherwise than you otherwise would. So my next event is on May 15th, so Wednesday again, 6 p.m. Pacific time. And I just forgot what the topic was. It's ways blocks lead to opportunities. I'll be looking forward to discussing that with you. So hope to see you then. And thanks for coming tonight. I really appreciate having so many of you listening in. Bye.